Hello everybody and welcome back to the Core Premiere Series here tonight at Richmond Raceway. Here with the Ford Mustang FSR 500s. Getting ready for a very exciting race here tonight with not a normal combo we would race here. Richmond, short mile-and-a-half race car track with these Mustangs that are normally for road courses, but we at Core tend to run these things at ovals a little bit more often than they probably should. I'm going to be your host here tonight, Brendan Polt. As we are getting ready to get this race going, get it under greens, we're going to take a look at your qualifying grid that sets up this race here tonight at Richmond. Christopher Hamilton takes the pole to 25.087. Blistering lap time from the number 64 machine. He is trailed not far behind by Carl Hamburg by 0.08 of a second in P2. Jacob Grube in P3. John Crane in 4th. Phelps in 5th. Joseph Sullivan in P6. Kevin Foster in 7th. Matt Crockett in 8th. And Brendan Mettler rounds out your 9-car field here tonight in P9. Pace car is going to take off here at any moment now. Cars roll through Richmond here. Again, a short racetrack. Not exactly meant for these Ford Mustangs, which is certainly going to be an interesting spin on the take of these cars. Again, mainly built for road racing, where they also turn right. These cars are currently going to only turn left here for 100 laps here tonight. Edwark and Hamilton, and only separated by about 0.08 of a second. Pace car may or may not drop down this time. It's a shorter track, so I think we're gonna have 2 pace laps. Aren't we ready to get going here? And yeah, that's pit wall. So yeah, 1 more pace lap here, and we're gonna get this race under green here tonight at Richmond. 100 laps. Getting ready to go green here at Richmond. Pace car coming down the back. Severe tires warming strategies from Brandon Medler in the backside now. We're going to see if that plays out. These cars do take a while to get to speed here in the cold scenario. We're going to go green here at Richmond, waiting on Barney. Green flag is out here at Richmond Raceway. Good start by the top 2. They're side by side coming down to turn 1. Turn 1 still side by side for the top 2. Hamilton has the advantage on the bottom lane, but here comes Hamburg on the outside with a run. Carl Hamburg gets the run on the outside lane. That's just how it's going to be here at this track. Place to make the move will be the outside later on when the tires get to temp. Right now it is all cold. 3 wide, a little bit further on, back for 8th. And I hear it spinning in the back from Mettler. Brendan Mettler's gonna spin. That's gonna stay green. That's gonna stay green. So we're still racing here with our top 2. Hamilton, Handwork, and Jacob Grube has stuck his way in here. It is now a top 3 fight. Draft is gonna be big here tonight. 25.3 already eclipsed our qualifying time. Hamilton gets the inside. He'll have the move done. Handwork's gonna cross him over though, coming down the front. 64 leads the lap, but 18's gonna door bang him. Gonna make him go higher than he wants. Gonna try and get his normal line. But that number 64 on that outside, he's gonna get the run off. Christopher Hamilton trying to make it work in that middle lane. Still there, just barely though for that number 18. Looks like he's struggling in comparison to the number 64. Oh, he's coming out of turn 2. That seems to be a weak spot. So far, I think Hamilton is clear, but just barely, but not now going into 1 as there's a send from the 18. That send didn't work though. Too hot through the middle. Hamilton, handwork, excuse me, grabs the apron. This allowed Groove to cross him over. 95 to the inside. To Jacob Groove gets that move done pretty easily after the mistake handwork did. About a lap ago, now getting the apron going into turn 3. This allows Christopher Hamilton to pull away. Go a little bit further on back with probably that next one. This fight, Mettler, Sullivan, I believe. This is a big gaggle here. Brandon Mettler involved in this a little bit further on back. It's Sullivan, I believe, on the outside, and Dan Phelps on that inside lane. There's John Crane on the outside with a little bit of a slow turn. John Crane is struggling. He drops back to 8th. Sullivan gets 7th. Just barely grabbing that wall. It is a 4-log train here. Being pulled by the number 15 of Mettler after getting in that mistake earlier. He's going to be able to at least get back to P6 from P9. Looking at back at this lead fight, Groove's all over the bumper of that 64. Tenth of the way through this race now as Hamilton leads it. Jacob Groove close on the tail though. Kevin Foster a little bit further on back, trying to make a move for 3rd against handwork. As he got that done very easily. Foster gets the move done, now making it into the top 3. Groove trying a little bit of a bump and run strategy with that number 64. Make him go a little bit hotter into the corner than they feel like, and hopefully they make a mistake. But that 95 is clearly faster, and he's just got to get around. Contact is made, but it so far stays green. 95 tried to get to that inside lane, but the gap was closed. Just see the massive run the number 95 is getting off the corner in comparison to number 64. It manages to get on the power. It appears to be quicker than usual as he bumps the 64 again. He's trying to make a move on that inside, gets to him now. A little bit of contact, but he is there, side by side, going into turn 1. Side by side with the number 64 with the advantage on the outside. Hamilton clears Jacob, so Jacob now with that knowledge gonna try and make moves done on the outside if he can. But when Hamilton's gonna be up there coming out of the corner, I wonder how tricky that's gonna be for our 95. As also a little bit further on back, Kevin Foster is closing the gap between both their top 2 right now. Bump drafting, coming down the front straight. 95 trying to do all that he can. 64 sliding those rears just a little bit. Maybe overheats them. You see what the bump and run is doing. It's working a little bit for Groove as it's making Hamilton push a lot more than he wants to. .95 down to the inside once again. Will this work though? He's got Hamilton going into one by position. Maybe we're expecting a little bit of a deeper ascend this time from the number 95. Gets a pretty good launch out of 2, but Hamilton gets it better. All this fighting is just allowing that number 8 of Kevin Foster to slowly creep his way back up to our top 2 so he can have a piece in what this lead fight goes. Groove has the slot coming out of 1 now, and he gets clear at 64. New leader is the number 95 of Jacob Groove. Gets it done being side by side for the 64 for about 3 laps. But how much does the draft matter here? As Groove is blinking just a little bit, but how much does the draft care about? 64, can he make a move back here in about 5 laps? There's lots of questions here that these drivers are asking themselves. And here within our top 3. As Foster now within the draft of Hamilton. Big send from that number 8 further on back. He's trying to get any closer as he can as John Crane is in pit road. Whether or not that means it's pit stop time for our leaders, I don't exactly know how long these tanks are gonna last. But that's showing if it's close, we could expect pit stops here sometime any minute now. Big send from Foster on the outside. Gonna try to get a run out of turn 2 to get to work on the number 64. Not gonna work though, as he really needs to get to their bumper on the bottom and then you start making a move to the outside. If and when you do get to them. As 64 has it lost at 95 and the 95 has it pulled away. Just so shows how much the draft actually means to our drivers here tonight. As our top 3 is in a little bit of a train right now. It's based off what John Crane just did. If you do pit right now, if you're in the back like Phelps, you will go at least 2 laps down. The leaders maybe only 1. But a minimum of 2 down if you pit under green flag conditions, as yellow flags are enabled because it is an oval race. So maybe that could come into play anytime tonight. single file through the entire pack, it seems like, looking on that track map in the top right. Closest fights is our top 3 here right now. But the draft isn't really working as well to try and gain time on each other, as Jacob Grube does have just some pure raw pace in it. As, actually looking at this, Kevin Foster has the fastest lap out of this top 3. And the person who has the fastest lap overall is at number 15 of Brandon Medler, who is now in P4. Last lap was only about 200ths, about a tenth faster than Foster. As I was busy with something else. Sorry that I missed the start of this battle. 64 on the inside of the number 95 as Jacob Grube's gap has closed, as our top 2 are now fighting side by side going into turn 4. Hamilton trying to do all that he can, but it looks like he's getting a taste of his own medicine, trying to make a move down on that inside, but then immediately getting the run taken away from the number 95 on the outside. Great run out of turn 2, as Jacob Grube gets a good run out of the corner, sets him up for amazing momentum coming down the back straight. Now Kevin Foster's all over the gearbox of the 64. Christopher Hamilton falling off in lap times. Foster's not exactly there on the inside just yet, as apparently he is now side by side for the second place coming through back straight, coming to 3. Foster has the advantage coming out of the Geico restart zone. He's gonna go all the way to the apron, still side by side. Big send from that 8. He gets it done for now. But does Hamilton have anything for him coming into 3? He does not. Kevin Foster moves up to P2. As Christopher Hamilton falling back ever so slightly. Matt Crockett in the pit road right now, which is probably a little bit better of an estimation for fuel percentages. So if that's the case, can these guys stretch it past halfway and make it a one-stop race? It's gonna be tight, but if they can, that'd be the most optimal way. The gap between Foster and Grube is closing within 2/10 now. Now extending to 3/10. Looks like Jacob Grube has really good pace, and I mean really good pace, coming off of the corners. But Foster is able to send it in deeper and make it stick. As Foster to the inside, side by side, going into turn 1. Jacob Grube will have to run that outside lane. Foster's gonna have to work on this for about 3 laps. Foster dropping all the way to the apron, trying to get as quick as a tri-oval he can get. Sends it deep into 1. Has the move cleared. Where is Jacob gonna go? Foster has it cleared, but Jacob has to run. Gonna cross over, coming down the back straight. Foster all the way to the wall. Side by side now with Hamilton. That crossover is not gonna work. Hamilton to the apron. There's a yellow line there, buddy. 3 wide going into 1. As after all that, our top 3 ends up staying the same as it was 5 laps ago. Foster a little bit of a mistake coming out of 4. Now Foster back to the inside of our leader. Coming down the back straight, we'll able to send it in as deep as he has been all race. Little bit just past halfway to go, and these guys have still yet to pit, so this will be a one-stop race, if any at all, as we are 54 laps into this 100-lap feature. This group cuts off that 8 coming down into turn 3. Great move from the 95 to play defensive. Foster's gonna have to jump up high too to block that 64. Not clear anymore as 64 Hamilton to the wall. Pulling the Larson line, going through 1. And that's 3 wide here, but that's because Kevin Foster is going to the pit road. So that's going to mean he can get to the end of this race as our top 2 is side by side. Hamilton trying to take that lead back, going through turn 2, 95 with the runoff. And after all of that, look who's caught up a little bit. It's Brandon Medler in the back who got spun at the beginning of this race. Now with gonna be a net P4 when this pit cycle ends. As Kevin Foster gets onto pit exit just one lap down. Definitely the best way to do that. He's only gonna be a lap down back to P4. Everybody else, he's gonna still be ahead of them technically. But Jacob Grew trying to still get that done on the outside. Pit stops are gonna be happening here late for the 64 and the 95. It's just a matter of when. Do they run the tank out or do they try to shorten it just a little bit? Still side by side, and now Brandon Medler's all over the gearbox of these top two. This fighting is not just allowing this 15 to close up, and Medler can basically play with these guys as he feels, as they're kind of at the mercy of his pressure. But Medler is gonna go on the outside of the 64. 64 has lost the side-by-side battle with the 95. As our top three is now ended up single file with Brandon Medler taking over the P2 spot. From spinning early on in this race to now sitting in P2, having a chance to take the lead and lead laps is a great recovery drive from Brandon Medler. That's got to be something special. No pit stops for our top three just yet. Kevin Foster is still waiting on the rest of the guys to pit so he can get back on the lead lap. He will be able to though once his top three has fully pitted. As Foster just set the fastest lap of the race with the 24.5. So that means that he either took fresh tires or he's really in push mode. And does that send a message to our top three that they need to pit now before he gets any closer? Not this lap though. Actually, of course, as I'm doing something else, I missed Christopher Hamilton hitting, so Hamilton's in. Does that send a message to the 95 and the 15 that they need to come in this time too? Will we see any drop to the apron this time? Still pretty hot like they're racing, and that is the case. They're gonna go out for a couple more laps. As Kevin Foster beats out Christopher Hamilton out pit road by a wide margin, by almost 1.2 seconds, and gonna be climbing until that P7 car can gain the momentum and gain the tire heat. But Kevin Foster jumps the number 7 or the number 64, excuse me, of Christopher Hamilton. Still no pit stops from our top two right now. Top two still has yet to pit. I'm surprised they're managing their fuel as long as they are. But obviously Hamilton and Foster saw something that maybe said we should pit a little bit earlier than having the tank completely run out. As top two still yet to pit this time. Really, our entire top five has yet to pit, but our P5 is about to get lapped here in a couple laps. We're gonna give my voice, because my one and only voice is definitely putting on a little bit of a strain here tonight. I want to give it a break and give you guys, hey, you love to hear it. 16 to go here at Richmond. Jacob Groove yet to pit. Carl Hanwick and Joseph Silva in your top 3. All have yet to pit. Hamilton did a couple laps ago. And Brandon Medler just did 2 laps prior to me, coming back live as Jacob Groove laps the number 11 of John Crane. The car behind Groove is the number 64 of Hamilton, not for position, but just to try and get his lap back. That's the number 95, dips down to, I believe, to pit. And he does. The number 95 of Jacob Groove now comes into pit road. That's gonna give the lead to Handwork, who's just now coming down the back straight. Gives the lead to Carl Handwork now. The only 2 yet to pit is Sullivan and Handwork, and then everything cycles out as it was. Now that Hamilton got around Foster even after, so he not only made up about a second gap or longer, he also increased said gap by about seconds though. If Foster made a mistake, I will not. As we are coming around to 10 to go when Handwork comes back around. At the pit, I wonder if he's managed to stretch this out. He did fall off a little early, but now with the lead and to go, 9 to go, maybe this played out in his favor. There's still 6.5 seconds between Handwork and Hamilton. Bumper of that 18, try and unlap him. So that he will do very easily, without really trouble. To go here at Richmond, and we're still in the lead. Joseph Sullivan now under pressure from Hamilton for the P2 spot, as Hamilton's right there, a car length gap. And if Handwork needs to pit, he kind of has to now, or else, even if he does pit now, he's not getting this. So maybe some bit of some fuel saving that allows them to go the full 100 lap distance. Lap 96 out of 100, and it's still 4.8 seconds to build to try and tear down into that lead. We'll see how quick Hamilton can do it, but is it enough? We're gonna go roll bar here with handwork to hear how much they're saving. To go cockpit to understand. Thought I could see a rev limiter, but I cannot with my FOV. That sound like he's lifting a lot though for such underpowered cars to be lifting almost the whole corner. Definitely got to be some sort of play on that. As yeah, handwork is definitely going to take this stretch out. Hamilton is close to the gap to 4 seconds, but 2 to go here at Richmond. Can handwork make it is the question. Hamilton will not have enough time to close that gap, but can handwork and make it? Coming through 3 and 4 for the second to last time. White flag is out in the air. Coming through turn 1 for handwork. Big lifts coming through turns 1 and 2. On the throttle much later. Coming out of 2, he still has pace. I'm pretty sure he can clutch it from here. Carl Hayward gets it out of turn 4 with a no-stop victory here tonight at Richmond. Carl Hayward gets through the entire race without making a single pit stop. Manages to get through 100 laps of racing here at Richmond on an oval with a car that was never meant to do this. Manages to stretch out that fuel tank 100 laps. Now the next question is, does Carl have anything left to do burnouts? Don't exactly know what these guys are doing, but I'm not gonna stop them. Mettler's trying to join up, but the Hamburg despawned this car, so we'll keep the celebrations going on here. We're gonna pull up the race results. Carl Haywork manages to have that fuel tank last 100 laps on a single tank, on a single stint. Didn't even see his pit crew once, and manages to finish with a 2.7 gap lead ahead of your P2 of Christopher Hamilton. Joseph Sullivan, under the same strategy of Carl Haywork, brings it home for 3rd. Kevin Foster in 4th, Jacob Grube in 5th, Dan Phelps in 6th, Matt Crockett 7th, Brandon Mettler in 8th, John Crane in 9th. The top 3 is in the broadcast. We're gonna pull up our 3rd place finisher. That's gonna be Joseph Sullivan. Joe, this is Brandon in the broadcast booth. You got a copy?
Yeah, I got you.
Well, one thing is for certain that I wasn't expecting is that... Sorry, just trying to do multiple things. One thing I wasn't expecting is that you and Handwork managed to make it last, I believe, a full 100 laps here at Richmond without pitting. At least based off my SDK pit strategy. You didn't see your pit crew once at all. How in the world did you pull that off?
Well, after I about took out the entire field there with like lap 2 or something like that, I decided I got pushed to the back anyway, so I just decided to hang back there and kind of see what the fuel numbers would be. And I knew they'd be close from the get go, but like it was looking like a save about 6 or 7 laps of fuel. And then I kind of just went into fuel saving strategy just to see if I could get close. And then the numbers just kept coming in, and it was going to be, I mean, I spotted off 4 coming to the checker, but we made it. I really didn't want to pit if I didn't have to, because, you know, bad things happen when you can pit, and I just didn't want to do a splash and go. So I was just like, well, wherever we finish is what we're going to get. So, you know, after that spin, getting loose there, I was just trying to salvage anything I could.
Well, luckily that no pit stop strategy turned into a 3rd here tonight, which is definitely not something to be mad about, considering the race, like you mentioned, on lap 2, where it was definitely a little bit of a questionable moment, to say the least. But before we get you on out here to celebrate your P3, is anybody like to thank on that number 76?
I just thank my wife for letting me do this, my kids, and everybody that watches me, supports me doing this stuff, and everybody at Core, you up in the booth for broadcasting. It'll be fun to go back and watch this one, and it's a good start for round 2, or was it round 1 of the playoffs?
It's beginning of round 2.
Yeah, round 2 of the playoffs, and we'll see if we get. I'm excited for this round, because there's a lot of. I was excited for this race, and the next 2 are going to be pretty fun. So we'll see if we can keep this up and lock ourselves into the next round.
Yeah, hopefully we get to see you at next week with New Hampshire South layout with the GR86. So another road car, but this time actually being raced on a road circuit. But get you on out here. Congratulations on that, Pete.
All right, we'll see you.
That was the P3 of Joseph Sullivan. We're going to bring in, once I find the broadcast tab, we're going to bring in our P2, Christopher Hamilton. Chris, this is Brendan in the broadcast booth. You got a copy?
Yeah, I got you.
Well, out of the top 3, you were the only one that pitted. So I'm guessing you just pushed a little bit harder than you would have wanted to make it a no-stop race. But I mean, still turned out to a P2 nonetheless. Can't be mad. First half of the race was definitely a great battle between, I believe it was Handwork, yourself, Foster, and Metler later on in that run. Jacob Grube was there too. Then field strategy did end up in his favor. How did that race go for you, though? I mean, you were basically in the lead the whole time.
Yeah. I just wanted some redemption after the past 2 weeks that were just not stellar performances by my standards. But yeah, I would gladly take a P2, put myself in a good position for making it through the next round. I did not care about fuel strategy personally. I knew I was gonna have to pit eventually, so it was a matter of tire game for me. And then once I saw Kevin dip in for fuel and tires, I was like, all right, it's only a matter of time before I dip in before he gets too far ahead, so I couldn't catch him. So luckily, I was able to catch up to them, and I was expecting the front 2 to eventually pit, but they didn't. So they're just a lot better at fuel saving than I am.
Maybe that is the case, but I mean, Sullivan managed to do it pretty well. He sent it up in ESP3, and Handwork obviously takes in W. You were closing on Handwork. There was probably another 10 laps. It would have, well, one, they would have pitted probably when you did. But if that wasn't the case, you would have probably been passing Carl late in that race. So definitely a strong showing here from you at the end of the night here at Richmond with these Mustangs. Anybody like to thank on that number 64 and get you on to celebrate that P2?
Yeah, a huge shout out to all the people watching. Couldn't do it without you guys, and everyone that's still here. I know the series has diminished a little bit, but I still enjoy coming out here and doing some racing. And thank you for the broadcast.
Thank you, Chris. Hopefully we'll see you next week at a New Hampshire road course layout with the GR86. Kind of close to the Miatas, but still, we'll see you.
I'm looking forward to that race. I need a good road course race after the eyesore that was Spec Racer Fords.
We don't need to talk about that if you don't.
Gladly.
We'll see you next week, Chris.
See you, Brandon.
That was our P2 of Christopher Hamilton. Gonna bring in our winner here tonight. That's gonna be Carl. Carl, this is Brandon in the broadcast booth. You got a copy.
I got you, buddy.
I'm basically going to ask you the same question I did Joseph. How in the world did you save fuel to make it last a whole race without seeing your pit crew once?
Well, I knew in practice that we were getting 95 laps. I still, even with that knowledge, didn't think there was any chance of making this work and making it last for an extra 5 laps. But I was amazed. For some reason, I was just off pace. Like, I was right there in practice and obviously right there in qualifying, even though I had a bad lap. I think if I would have had a decent lap, I could have got the pole. But for some reason, I don't know if it just burned up the tires or heated them up too much the first couple of laps. I was just off pace and off pace quickly. I mean, the first 2 got around me pretty quickly, and then Kevin got around me, and then Metler got around me, and I hung with Metler for a little bit and found a little bit kind of early on that run, but I never felt like I was on pace to the point where I thought maybe I got damaged somewhere and I didn't even know it. Maybe I had a bird that flew by the track or something. But yeah, once I realized I was off pace, I'm like, well, I got to try something different. And once I realized that my fuel saving laps were about the same laps that I was running anyway, I'm like, well, screw it. I'm just going to try this, see if it works. And it took a little bit for him to start, chopping off some of the laps that I was going to have to run and get closer and closer to that green mark. And I spotted coming to the line. I mean, I started saving probably about maybe lap 45. And it took literally not braking at all the entire second half of the race just to make it to the end. So it was not easy. It was nerve-wracking, and it was definitely a lot slower than I'd like to be running out there.
Well, Sullivan was the exact same way. He was sputtering coming out of 4, so you guys must have started saving at the exact same time. Obviously, though, it worked out. You came out with the dub. Even with a couple more laps with Hamilton closing, that still would have produced some great racing, but I don't think he had enough fuel to make that happen anyways. But before we get you on out of here to celebrate this W, anybody like to thank on that number 18?
Well, obviously, I got to thank the crew for just topping me off maybe a little bit more than everybody else here and getting me 3 wins in a row. I'll certainly take that, especially here in the playoffs. Thank everybody that came out here tonight. That's always first and foremost. I appreciate everybody that comes out here to the races. I wish, at least for your sake and for the viewers out there, that we had a little bit more in the field here tonight. But it was still it was kind of fun. I mean, I won, but this was kind of like the most like ho hum win I think of my career. It was just saving the whole time. But thank all the fans out there for tuning in. Thank you up there in the booth, and I don't foresee 4 in a row, but I mean, I was surprised at Vegas, so maybe Chris can have a mistake again at New Hampshire and I'll take 4 in a row.
Certainly, you say that, but before we make you have Chris put a vendetta on you, we're going to get you on out of here. Okay, congratulations on the P1. Hopefully we'll see you next week at New Hampshire 6.
Sounds good. Thanks, buddy.
That was our winner of Carl Handwork, who gets it done doing the entire race on a single tank of fuel, not taking a pit stop at all here tonight. If you guys enjoyed this kind of racing, if you guys enjoyed this core in general, tomorrow night we have the MX5 series starting their race at Daytona Legacy Road. The MX5 Miatas, that's going to be a fun one to watch. Old Daytona, still bumpy NASCAR areas, and I'm not exactly sure how the infield is going to be, but that's going to provide some interesting moments coming through the NASCAR bit. On May 7th, the Core Xfinity Series heads over to Kansas, follows the real-life schedule, as the Xfinity race I heard was pretty good, so we expect the same here at Core. Thursday, for the GT Series, they are going to the Red Bull Ring and the GTPs and the GT. As again, Red Bull Ring known for its high speed corners and just overall sub-minute 10 lap time, depending on what car you're driving. And here sometime soon, within the week, I believe, I need to find the banner for it. But yeah, I believe either end of this week. I want to check my calendar to make sure on this. Yep, this Saturday is the Coca-Cola 300, which is gonna be at Charlotte with the NASCAR 1987 lineup of cars that has. We're gonna be running that here this weekend. 300 miles on stake here at Charlotte. Just not much further away from here at Richmond compared to at least other tracks on the NASCAR schedule. Thank you guys so much for sticking around here on this 100-lap feature of Carl Handwerk taking the W. We'll see you guys next week. Good night.